My boss stared at me in confusion and said, "Why'd you arrive by taxi today? What happened?" Can you imagine your boss asking why you're taking taxis to work, and before you can even answer, your own husband, the HR director, casually drops a bombshell. Her sister uses that car now. My world stopped. What the hell happened next? That morning, Elena Rodriguez, my boss and easily the most formidable woman I knew, had just asked me the question I'd been dreading for 3 weeks. Why did you come in a taxi today? What happened to the car we gave you for your promotion? I could feel Owen's presence beside me in that conference room like static electricity, that low hum of tension. My husband. The company's HR director. The man who was supposed to be on my side. Before I could answer, before I could scramble for another excuse about car trouble or maintenance, anything to protect him, Owen just spoke. Her sister is using that car now. His tone was so flat, so casual, like he was commenting on the weather. Like he hadn't just announced to my boss that he'd given away company property without my permission. The silence that followed lasted maybe 3 seconds. But in those 3 seconds, I watched my entire marriage, my career, my carefully constructed life, all of it just begin to crack apart. And Elena's face told me she was about to do something about it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. Let me tell you how I got to that conference room, to that moment, to the point where my own husband could casually destroy me in front of my boss without even bothering to look up from his phone. It started 3 weeks earlier, over breakfast. I'd woken up at 6:15 a.m., like every morning for 6 years, slipping out of bed without waking Owen. The house was silent, except for the hum of that expensive espresso machine he'd insisted we buy. Restaurant grade, professional quality, he'd said. I'd never learned to use it properly, because the third time I tried, he'd taken over, muttering I was doing it wrong. So, I made instant coffee instead. The cheap kind Owen said was garbage. I microwaved water in a mug, stirred in the crystals, and stood at the kitchen window, watching the sunrise paint Camelback Mountain in shades of pink and gold. My Audi should have been in the driveway. The pearl white Q5, caramel leather interior, the car that came with my promotion to Senior Solutions Architect last year. My designated parking spot at work had been empty for weeks now. And every morning, standing at that window, I felt that absence like a missing tooth. You know, the kind you can't stop touching with your tongue, even though it hurts. I told myself it was temporary. That Owen's sister, Charlotte, really did need it. That I was being difficult, materialistic, petty for caring so much about a car. But standing there with my cheap coffee, feeling the silence of the house press down on me, I knew it wasn't really about the car. It was about the fact that I was disappearing. Not dramatically, not in some obvious way that people could point to and say, there, that's when Abigail Morrison lost herself. But in small, daily erasures. My coffee preferences didn't matter because Owen's espresso machine was better. My work schedule didn't matter because Owen had already volunteered me for his mother's charity board. My company car didn't matter because Charlotte needed it more. My voice. What happened next? Watch full story attached below.